Hey everybody, welcome back to Avondale Sky Winery. I am Karl Coutinho along here with Ben Swetnam as we run through our June Sky Club release. Historically one of the more popular Sky Club releases every year, simply because you're getting a lot of wines that you've had before but not these vintages. So I hope everyone's looking forward to it as much as we are. I haven't even tried all these wines yet, so I'm excited to be run through by the master here today. So Ben, without any further ado, I'll let you get us started with this year's Tidal Bay.
Yeah. So I suppose we'll get right into it. I think most of the folks here in the Sky Club will be pretty familiar with all of these wines, but this is brand new vintages of every single one. So we'll start right off with the Tidal Bay, and Tidal Bay, of course, is Nova Scotia's appellation wine. So it doesn't come from the mountains. It's an appellation in the sense that it can only be made here. It has to be 100% Nova Scotian grapes. It has to pass an independent tasting panel every single vintage to make sure that it tastes like a Tidal Bay and is of a quality level that speaks to Nova Scotia. It was certainly designed to be a food-friendly wine, where it has to be dry-ish to just off-dry, lower alcohol. It has to be between 9 and 11%. Can't be more than 20 grams per liter residual sugar, so definitely you're never going to find a really sweet Tidal Bay. And of course that signature Nova Scotia crisp, fresh acidity that really helps for the food pairing, and just speaks to Nova Scotia's climate.
How many years have we been making Tidal Bay here now, Ben? What number of vintage is this for you?
2010 was the very first. So this would be
11th or 12th.
12th, yeah.
Yeah, it's always hard when you start at zero.
Year number 12 for us.
Yeah. I know it's still early days on this one. We just bottled it a couple weeks ago. How do you find this Tidal Bay compares to ones that you've made in the past?
I think it's a pretty classic vintage for Tidal Bay, where like 2020 and 2021 vintages were both pretty warm, so you might find a little bit more ripe fruit, things edging a bit more towards like peach nectarine, as opposed to in a cooler vintage more citrus and apple kind of notes. So you get just a little bit more kind of ripe fruit, but still with that like crisp backbone of acidity. It's also it's just a little bit sweeter this year than some years in the past. Not a lot, like talking a gram or two per liter difference, and I think there's enough acidity there that it balances out. But it's really kind of easy drinking on its own, but also perfect with all the classic Tidal Bay pairings of just about anything from the sea.
Yeah. To chicken wings. Don't forget the chicken wings.
To the spicy chicken wings. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always my favorite pairing of the year. The chicken wings and Tidal Bay. It's interesting. There's many different customers, restaurants included, that'll reach out to us, and every year when the Tidal Bays from all the wineries come out, they like to do the blind tasting, right? Whether it's to see what they're going to put on their menu, or people just like to do it with a group of friends at home. And I'm sure there's a lot that we don't win, but there's a lot that we do that we end up getting the feedback, which is great. So again, I think it shows your consistency of making a product like Tidal Bay, which can still be very versatile every year, a different blend of grapes every year. Can you tell us a little bit about the grapes you've got in this year's vintage?
Yeah, so we've kind of gone back to our most classic kind of blend for the Tidal Bay, where it's based primarily on Lac-Di Blanc and Vidal, and then there's a good amount of the Geisenheim, which is the grape of bliss, and that's what lends it most of the natural sweetness. And then there's of course just a little bit of Ortega in there, a little bit of Petit Milo in there as well.
Right on. No, it's delicious, as it always is. And for those that don't know, we actually this is our first year making Tidal Bay in a can as well. So well, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of your people doing Tidal Bay vertical tastings, if you can't get together with a whole group to split buying a dozen or so bottles,
Right.
you can get about half of the Tidal Bays this year you can find in cans, so it's really easy to do just a little Tidal Bay tasting for two if
Yeah.
you go and buy all the different canned ones and
For
taste
sure.
them.
Yeah, good point.
It's a nice, easy format. It's definitely like the cans are, don't save them, just drink them whenever you feel like it. Take them wherever, wherever you're legally allowed to.
That's right,
But certainly, for places where you can't have glass, a great convenient option.
It seems to be that summer trend, right? Like, I mean, especially when we're talking about Tidal Bay, you're talking about pairing it with seafood. So is that maybe it's at the yacht club or on your boat or at a beach or at the golf course, whatever it may be. If we're gonna go with a summer wine, you don't want to be clanking around glasses sometimes. Sometimes you're at a campground or whatever, you can't bring, or you don't want to bring glass. It's a way to still enjoy some of your favorite things like wine in a more easy to drink format. So anyway, just thought I'd mention that and plug that if you hadn't heard already. So let's move on to Tennycape, another popular white wine blend that we do.
Yeah, so we have the new vintage of Tennycape here. Very similar blend to the Tidal Bay in that the base is certainly Lac-Édit Blanc and Vidal. But then after that, we've got some really punchy aromatics delivered by the New York Muscat and Ortega.
Okay.
And then this year, there's just a little bit of Pinot Noir in the blend as well. So you're gonna find like an immediate difference on the nose because of that Muscat component. You get that sort of floral, perfumed kind of note. Then you get a little bit of red fruit from the Pinot. But just a much more aromatic and slightly sweeter blend than the Tidal Bay, and it's amazing what just small percentages of a few different grapes can do to a blend.
Totally. In terms of food pairings, like we always say with Tidal Bay, it really goes with anything, but it really goes well with seafood, and we joke, but it's true. It goes well with the chicken wings.
Yeah.
When you talk about Tennycape, what are some of the things? Does it still pair with everything the same way the Tidal Bay would, or would there be more things that you would lean to more than saying, hey, it goes with everything?
It's definitely another one that's super versatile food pairing wise, where it does have a little bit more sweetness, and it's got that extra aromatic oomph from the Muscat. I think you can go with maybe some more extreme flavors with the Tennycape. You can go with things that have like a really strong spicy component. The only thing that I would mention is with that Muscat in the blend, Muscat and raw onion really do not get along. Okay. So anything with a raw or pickled onion component, I would stay away from with the Tennycape.
Okay. Now the Tennycape blend, I mean, I think as far back as 2016, we used to make a Chevry, and
Yes.
I know it was a very similar blend at one point, and we get that a lot, questions from folks. Oh, when are you bringing Chevry back? And so, can you speak a little bit about some of the similarities between Tennycape and Chevry, and sort of where we landed on that?
Yeah, so I mean the blends were essentially the same with some differences from vintage to vintage. Chevry was originally created to be exclusive to restaurants and wine club, and then one year we just kind of made too much of it, and so eventually went and released it to the public. But it was really the same wine. So that if you were a Chevry fan and you find yourself missing it, Tennycape is essentially the same wine.
Yeah, same wine, but obviously different vintage to vintage. But I think it's an important point to point out. We try and educate our customers when they ask here, but just so for all of you who've enjoyed Chevry in the past or Tennycape in the past, the 2021 Tennycape I think will not disappoint. And again, great job. Tastes lovely.
Yeah, thank you. And next up, we have the new vintage of Lady Slipper. And this one stays pretty classic year to year. Not a lot of changes in any given vintage. Sometimes there's a little bit of Vidal in there just to flesh it out. This year, we went with just entirely red grapes, and as with really all of our rosés, the base is Leon Milo. It's one of my favorite grapes that we grow out here in Nova Scotia to make rosé with.
Yep.
Because I think it's more focused on kind of fresh red fruit. It's definitely more cherry, raspberry, cranberry, strawberry.
Yeah.
Or some of the other red grapes made into rosé, you can end up with more kind of greener notes or more savory notes. That I prefer rosé to just be really kind of fresh, fruity, easy drinking, not too dry, not too sweet.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're always going for with this one.
For sure.
And as always, the Lady Slipper is it's one of those wines that it actually pairs really well with things like turkey dinner, because it's like drinkable cranberry sauce,
Right.
and or a ham roast, or a charcuterie board,
Yep.
anything with where you've got some cured meat or some cooked meat or even some smoked meat. I think we were going through tasting the menu at the restaurant here, and there was almost nothing that Lady Slipper didn't pair well with.
Yeah, it's definitely historically one of the more versatile wines. I know even when we are talking to restaurants and trying to pair up to their menu to say what would go well, Lady Slipper tends to be the rosé of choice. Like Ferry Road is on the red side, it just pairs well with the charcuterie and like you said, so many other flavors. With the other rosés that we make, I know this year we've got a sweet rosé that'll be coming out later this year, and obviously we have the canned Summer Sizzler. So we still have the Leon Malo from 2019 as well. But in terms of this year's blend for Lady Slipper, can you explain some of the differences between that and maybe sort of where you'd end up with the sweet rosé or even the Summer Sizzler?
Yeah, so the Summer Sizzler typically is kind of a blend of a bit of rosé, some sweet stalled ferments, as well as a little bit of white wine, and definitely higher on the sweetness scale than the Lady Slipper. But with the fact that it's carbonated, you get some extra acidity from the carbonation, so it comes out nicely balanced.
Yeah.
And the sweet rosé, that's exclusively a stalled ferment of Leon Milo, so you're going to find much lower alcohol, much higher residual sugar, but you're going to get a lot more of the primary fruit character of the grape.
Okay.
Whereas you get more of the kind of finished wine, like the more vinous notes from the Lady Slipper or the Leon Milo dry rosé.
And so the sweet rosé, you said, was all Leon this year?
This year,
Sorry, to catch you up. Yeah.
I'd have to go back and check my notes.
Okay. But this one has, I think there's Marquette in this one as well?
A little bit of Marquette.
Not too much though.
Yeah, I really like Marquette as another one. It's a newer grape to Nova Scotia, and it really shows well in rosé. It's a little bit higher acidity, so it's nice to blend it down with some Leon Milo that's a little bit of a less acidic grape.
Sure.
And I think in the future we'll probably be using a lot more of it. Last year, just a few newer growers that were starting to come online with their Marquette, so we didn't have a lot of it.
Right.
But I do like the kind of freshness that it brings to the blend.
Yeah, no, and I always find it interesting. I know Ben and I have many chats through the year on sort of what grapes are we going to end up with, what wines do we need to make, and how much. But we make a Leon Malo dry rosé. We make a Marquette, which is a reserve wine. I don't think we've had one since maybe 2016. So can you talk just briefly a little bit on sort of your thought process on, okay, how much is the quantity, and can we even make this into a red, or do we just, kind of stick it to something like Lady Slipper as an example?
Yeah. For me, I really like how the rosés come out.
Yeah.
And
you're not alone.
And it's something that we can make and have available right away, whereas the reds take a lot more time and effort. And so it really comes down to vintage, where some years some certain red varietals will come in particularly clean and particularly ripe, and I'm like, okay, like you're going into the reserve program.
Right.
And then most of the grapes we'd look at and like, this is going to be perfect for rosé because of where the sugar and the acidity and just I like them.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, I know many of you are Sky Club members, obviously, but there's also people that might watch this that are not. So these three are all readily available, usually at the NSLC as well, if you're not here at the winery. But it's this bad boy at the end that I think creates a lot of buzz every year. This year is no exception. So many of the Sky Club members have already put in their requests for sort of our pre-order on the Drops of Amber, which will be released the day that you're all here on June the 12th. We've already got sort of the public out there also from a pre-order, but I'll let you tell us about another one of those wines that sort of helped put Avondale Sky on the map.
Yeah, so this is a unique grape variety to Avondale Sky Winery. Our Drops of Amber. For those not familiar with the backstory on this grape, the original owners of this vineyard, the Bennetts, Andrew and Mary Bennett, ordered in a bunch of different newer varietals of grapes from a nursery in Quebec, and they were all shipped, not individually labeled. They were just shipped in a box with a map of this is here and this is there. And of course, everything got jumbled up on the journey, so he was just blindly planting grapes, knowing that like, they're one of 8 or 9 different varieties, but I don't know which is which. And ultimately, this particular one really performed very well in the vineyard. Crop consistently ripens nice and early, and has a very unique both color and flavor profile and aromatics. And so, rather than try and figure out exactly what it was called, they just gave it the name Drops of Amber.
That's amazing. That is amazing. No, it's quite a story. Thank you. And it is quite a popular wine. And I know we redid the labels last year. So for those that were around last year and got their hands on a bottle or two of Drops of Amber, we kind of went with that festival look and that fair look because of one of the primary tasting notes that you get in there is cotton candy, which tells you how sweet the flavor profile can be. But you know, sometimes you hear, oh, you might taste this, you might taste that, like, oh, you might taste some gooseberry. Oh, what the hell does gooseberry taste like? You're not really sure. But cotton candy, everyone's got a little bit of them that goes, I know what cotton candy tastes like. And this, it just hits it every time. It's amazing. It's one of those ones you don't want to keep too close to your kids because it's that sweet and that delicious.
Yeah, no, it definitely like has that, you know, that strawberry cotton candy, pink cotton candy note, or you know, some people might think of it more as like a candied apple, or I mean, and nosing it right now, it's actually kind of reminding me of like strawberries and cream.
Oh, totally.
Like with sugar on top, like
the way my
dad used to do.
It's totally, it's a treat. It really, truly is. It's. I think even if you don't love sweet wine, you would still have to enjoy a glass of this because it's special. It really is. And the backstory is really cool. Like, you know, to not know necessarily what they were even planting and how well it would turn and what you've done with it to make it such a prominent wine in the repertoire is great. Many people love Drops of Amber. They sock it away, they save it, they've got them from previous vintages, they'll open them on special occasions. They don't share with their friends, so it's up to you if you share with yours. Many of them like it on its own, on the deck, in the basement, wherever they want to have it. What would you pair Drops of Amber with, though? Like, if you were to say, you know what, we're having a dessert, we're having a meal, what does it go with if you were going that way?
I would say most desserts you're going to find are a little bit too sweet already for Drops of Amber, and you're going to find that the wine really dries out if you have it with something that's too sweet. Okay. But that said, like a fresh, like a fruit salad is going to be that's about as sweet as you're going to want to go. Okay. With Drops of Amber or something like that, anything that's kind of fresh and like springy. Yeah. Like I would say it'd be fantastic with like an arugula salad with some strawberries in there, and then maybe just like the tiniest little balsamic drizzle. Gotcha. Something like that's gonna pair.
Just kind of pick up one of the notes out of it and really, okay, interesting. So not really necessarily something that you'd eat with too many desserts at all.
No, I think if you're like, you might get away with a pie if it's not overly sweet, but even that you're probably pushing the envelope. Okay. Maybe if you're having your pie with ice cream, definitely not. But if you're having it with cheese, probably all right. Okay.
Now, when you say strawberry, it got me thinking, what about something like strawberry rhubarb pie? Would that throw it off with the rhubarb, or?
You might be all right there, depending on, you know, how much sugar's in the recipe. But the rhubarb certainly is going to have that acidity to cut through, so you may find that
Only because I like strawberry rhubarb pie, so I thought I'd ask. Awesome. Well, Ben, this is great, and we look forward to seeing everybody on June the 12th here for your Sky Club pickup. The winery, we are now open Wednesday to Sunday, 11 to 5. The restaurant, 11 to 4. We've got the guys in the back today. You might catch a glimpse of them or not here through the video, but we're really excited for a great year. The menu's fresh and exciting. We'd love to see you as many times as you can come out. I'm glad everyone's staying happy and healthy. Ben, thanks again for running us through this as you do best. Cheers, and we look forward to seeing you guys in a couple of weeks.
Cheers.